Welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni. This is Danny. And today we're continuing our Holidays in Human Design series. We're going to be talking about Halloween, spooky season.
Yeah, we're getting into some gates, and I think 44 has something to do with it, and the spooky stuff of the spleen, and I can't wait to watch this thing unfold.
It's pretty exciting because if you look on the Human Design mandala wheel, then you see that through October we go through all 7 gates of the spleen, and the spleen is about survival fears. So literally through all of October, we're going, be afraid of this, be afraid of this, be afraid of this, be afraid of this. It just goes through the list. So October is literally spooky season. It makes energetic sense, which was really fun to realize.
What a coinkydink. I mean, really,
Yeah,
right?
and it's like, of course it does. Of course it does line up because we come up with these holidays, or we call it spooky season because we're picking up on the energy, even if we wouldn't know that that's what's going on.
And that's not what it was originally called. This was not originally, quote, spooky, scary season, was it? I mean, Halloween comes from something that you're going to get into.
Yeah, I'll get into like the Christian origins and then into the secular origins. But I mean, it is this time of summer is winding down, right? Like we are well into fall. Things are getting crackly, leaves are getting dry and falling off. Like it's getting into this death mode of the season. You
Mm.
can see plants are kind of starting to wither away and dry out. It's going into the darkness of winter. So there is that kind of underlying dark unknown aspect to it, and then we'll get more into like the history of it. But the point being is, yeah, we go through all 7 gates of the spleen, which it's about survival fears before you're going into winter of like, hey, it's getting dark and cold, like do you have what you need to survive? And then when we actually hit Halloween, we hit the last of the splenic gates with gate 44. And
Mm.
44 is about survival, ancestral survival, the fear of extinction. It's remembering the ancestors. It's knowing what to be afraid of. With Halloween, we'll get into details, but it's a lot of remembering the ancestors, remembering the dead, remembering the saints. It's all that kind of stuff, as well as, especially as it goes into the more secular side of it, of the spooky season, and you dress as something spookier than the spooky, in the same way that they have gargoyles outside of cathedrals because the gargoyles are going to scare away the demons and the other scarier things. So
I have gargoyles in my own home just because I like them. I don't even know why, but chances are it has something to do with this in some kind of way, right? Fear in human design isn't used in the same way that we use fear when we watch a scary movie, in the way it would be used in a common tongue mostly. This is to drive intelligence. This is awareness fear. Like, hey, let's look at that. We call it fear because of its sudden nature. It suddenly is, let's look right at that. So it could be something that we have to, duck or jump out of the way. And fear drives that intelligence. So it's a total nuance different from the blunt fear that one thinks of in common language. I'd like to point that out.
if you'd like to book a reading with Danny or myself, you can do so. You can scan this QR code right above me, or I also have the link down in the description box. And you can use code AWAKEN for 10% off of your reading. So you can save a little bit and hang out with us, and we can help you understand your chart.
Oh, it'll be a good idea, peeps. Anything you can do to bring yourself in to have this analysis done, right? It's just such a joy, and what you get out of it is it's priceless. You'll see.
Thank you to everyone who is watching, liking, subscribing, hanging out with us. We love having you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for helping us grow, and let's get into it. Halloween, and it also relates to All Saints Day and All Souls Day. It corresponds with human design gates 44 and 24. 44 is that splenic gate of ancestral memory, survival, the fear of extinction. And gate 24 is the return and going over things, and like going over things in your mind and kind of looping things to figure them out for better or worse.
It's the leading edge of the cross of the 4 ways in this quarter of duality and initiation. It leads to alertness. The alertness brings the incarnation. The incarnation lands with a direction that ultimately lives with the memory of everything that has taken place in this quarter and how important it was and why we built a whole civilization for it in the first place.
So, as Danny's referencing, the incarnation crosses we go through are The right angle cross of the four ways, the juxtaposition cross of alertness, and the left angle cross of incarnation. This energy has to do with instinctual, ancestral, and historical memory, as well as tribal fears of survival and extinction. These are people who are seers with instinctual alertness, in tune with keeping the past alive by revisiting and connecting all to it, pondering what it means to incarnate and survive, as well as the memory of the deceased. Like all this energy is kind of coalescing with these incarnation crosses.
With a very tribalist flair to it, right? The giant tribal flair. This is the tribe is the survival of humanity and the individual, thank God.
Yeah, and so it's kind of interesting as you put these together of this idea of Halloween, which we'll get into the history of that in a moment. Just these are these core essences of like what's coming up at this time. And so it kind of makes sense that all these things came together in a strange way to create this holiday that we celebrate as
Right,
Halloween.
Halloween leading up to it, exactly. I don't want to be, spoiler on the party at all, but technically speaking, Halloween is technically the not self of the fears of the spleen in a way, how it's marketed ish. I mean, it is. Now that
Yeah.
I think of it, I never even put that together before, but it is.
Yeah, I mean, it totally
Oops.
makes sense. The fears of the spleen, and then somebody dressed up as like a slasher guy.
Yeah, slashers and this and that and da da da. But then again, at the end of the day, what do? We come to meet. In fact, we cross meet. We meet our neighbors. We screw. That's one of the. Hey, Halloween can be easily said to be the only time certain neighbors ever meet other neighbors once a
That's
year.
true.
Halloween. That's
Wow, I
wicked
never,
true.
that's so
That's
cool.
what I've had the experience in my own neighborhood when I had kids growing up here, and I was like, oh wow. So Halloween's the thing that brings us together. And we
It's
get to
so
talking. "Hey, I live over there." Yeah, and we talk for a few minutes and wow, we came to meet. Like, literally, it's the literal definition of that now that I think of it.
That's so funny. I'd even put that together like trick or treating as gate 44 coming to meet. And even 24, you're returning. You're going from one house to the next. You're going from
Mhm.
one house to the next, and you're meeting the next one, and you're meeting the next. Oh my God, I even put that together.
Yes. I didn't either.
I love doing this together where I'm like, I swear there's something here. Let's talk about it. And I find out cool stuff on my own, and then we talk about it together, and you're like, how? Like, of course it is. But also, like, are you kidding me? It's the energy of this time. So I also have a bit of history to kind of explain the origins of this holiday. So we're first off going to hit like the Christian origins of it, and then we're going to go into the more secular, modern celebration of Halloween as we know it. Halloween, short for All Hallows Eve, is deeply rooted in the Catholic Church's liturgical calendar as a sacred vigil of prayer, remembrance, and celebration. It marks the beginning of Hallowtide, a 3-day holy season, October 31st to November 2nd, focused on honoring the saints in heaven, praying for the faithful departed, and reflecting of the victory of Christ over sin and death. Far from secular frivolity, its history emphasizes spiritual preparation, charity, and the hope of eternal life.
That's gorgeous. Is there more?
Oh yeah, no, I have a whole bunch. Just sit tight. Get some popcorn. The early foundations honoring martyrs and saints from the 6th through the 8th century. So the story begins with the early church's need to commemorate the growing number of martyrs and saints whose individual feast days could not fit into the calendar. So after Jesus died in like early Christianity, there's like over 500 Christian martyrs that were like thrown to the lions den and like in the Colosseum and like Roman persecution. So having over 500 martyrs, we don't have enough days, and so Catholics will they assign like every day has like saints associated, but there's too many martyrs to honor all of them within a calendar year. So in 609 AD, Pope Boniface IV established May 13 as the feast of all holy martyrs, a unified day to venerate those who had given their lives for the faith. This act formalized a collective remembrance, shifting focus from isolated commemorations to a broader celebration of heavenly witnesses. By the 8th century, Christianity spread across Europe. The feast evolved further. In 731 AD, Pope Gregory III consecrated a chapel in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome to all saints, not just the martyrs, expanding the observance to include all the faithful departed who now dwell with God. He relocated the date to November 1st, aligning it with the church's rhythm of the season. The evening prior, October 31st, became the vigil or All Hallows Eve. Hallow is holy, so it's the eve of all the holy, a time of fasting, prayer, and anticipation, much like Christmas Eve. Church holidays traditionally begin at sunset, so this eve carried the weight of preparation for the saints' triumph. The expansion of Hallowtide, All Souls' Day, and medieval devotions, the 10th through the 15th centuries. Hallowtide reached its fuller form in 998 AD when Abbot Odilo of Cluny Abbey in France instituted All Souls Day on November 2nd. This day is dedicated to interceding for the souls in purgatory. So people who don't make it quite to heaven, but they're not going to hell, they go to purgatory. So they're in this in between. So you pray for the souls in purgatory to help them. Purgatory is where beloved family and friends undergoing purification before entering heaven. Drawing from Scripture's call to pray for one another, it spread rapidly across the church, emphasizing mercy, charity, and the reality of ongoing sanctification. Together, All Hallows Eve, All Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day created a profound triduum, a 3-day observance, of light amid encroaching winter darkness, symbolizing Christ's resurrection as the defeat of the eternal night. Medieval
Mm.
Christians enriched those days with heartfelt traditions that embodied faith in action. On All Souls' Day, the faithful practiced souling, where poor villagers and children went door to door offering prayers and songs for the deceased in exchange for soul cakes, a simple spiced pastry baked as an act of almsgiving. Each cake represented a prayer lifted for a soul released from purgatory, fostering community and compassion. In Ireland and Scotland, this blended with guising, like disguising, so guising, where participants donned costumes as saints, angels, or even souls in white robes to perform verses or skit, reminding all of the call to holiness. Catholic churches often displayed relics, bones, or artifacts of saints for public veneration on Halloween, turning parishes into centers of devotion and education about heroic lives of faith. These customs weren't mere entertainment, they were pedagogical tools. Dressing as biblical figures like St. John the Baptist or St. Francis highlighted virtues to emulate, while the playful scares of the geysers demanding treats in a saint's name underscored the joy of resurrection over fear of death. By the late Middle Ages, Hallowtide processions and pageants filled European towns and bonfires, lit not for superstitions but to symbolize all saints' illuminating witness. Then it goes into the Reformation. So, Reformation echoes in modern Christian observance, 16th century onward. The Protestant Reformation added another layer to October 31st Christian significance. On Halloween in 1517, Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the Wittenberg church door, igniting a movement to reform the church and refocus on Scripture's grace. Lutherans distanced from some Catholic elements like purgatory. Many Protestants retained All Saints' Day as a remembrance of the faithfully departed, viewing Halloween as a night of theological reflection. We did all like kind of the Christian background, so now we're going to get more into the how it became secularized into what we know it as. By the end of the Middle Ages, secular and sacred elements had merged. Though the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century diminished religious aspects in England and Scotland, shifting Halloween towards secular folk customs, while Catholic regions like Ireland retained stronger ties to All Hallow Tide. Guising, the Scottish and Irish variant of disguising for treats or performances, songs, jokes, or dances, secularized further, replacing prayers with entertainment to avoid misfortune. So you start having like the origins of like trick or treating, the tricky part, you know? So, and now we're going to get into the spread to America and the modern evolution. So, Halloween arrived in colonial America, subdued and regionally varied. Puritan settlers in New England largely suppressed it as superstitious, but Maryland's Catholic communities and southern plantations incorporated harvest festivals. The 1840s potato famine drove massive Irish immigration, transplanting customs like guising, souling, and turnip lanterns, carved with eerie faces, from the Stingy Jack folklore of a wandering soul repelled by glowing vegetables lit with coals. So this is super cool that I literally just learned today. So there's this Stingy Jack figure, this mythological figure, and it was this poem from 1851 by Hercules Ellis. And so the story is basically it's telling this poem of how centuries ago in Ireland there was this drunkard called Stingy Jack, and he was known through the land as a deceiver and a manipulator and like a bad dude. And so Satan overheard the tale of Jack's evil deeds and his silver tongues. He was unconvinced and envious of the rumors, so the devil wanted to find out for himself whether or not Jack lived up to his vile reputation. Satan went to Jack to go like see like how bad are you, and like I'm gonna like take you down to hell. And so Jack's like, how about we get a few drinks first? I'm like, I should get a couple drinks. So they get really drunk at some pub, and then they have to pay. So Stingy Jack is like, well, Satan, why don't you turn yourself into a piece of silver so we can like pay the bartender? And then when he's not looking, you turn back into yourself and we can go off and do what we're going to do. So Satan's like, that's a really good mischievous idea. Let's do it. So Satan turns into like a coin. And when he was turned into the coin, Stingy Jack like put him in his pocket where he had a crucifix. So the devil wasn't able to reemerge.
Oh no. I
It gets
love it.
better. It gets
Tricky
so
Jack.
it gets so much better. So then the devil is like, haha, like you got me. That's not fair. So in exchange for like letting the devil become the devil again, Satan gave him like 10 years. Like, I won't take you to hell for 10 years. That was the deal. So like Jack went about his drunkard life, and 10 years later, the devil came back and he's like, hey, time to pay up. Let's go. I'm taking you with me. And Jack's like, oh, but I'm so hungry. I should like let me at least have an apple first. Like, please let me have an apple. So the devil's like, okay, fine, you can have an apple. And the devil climbs up in the apple tree. And while he's up there, Stingy Jack puts like these crucifixes all around the ground so the devil can't come off of the tree.
Can't come off the tree. That's too funny.
Yeah. So then Stingy
I didn't know
Jack
the
makes,
devil was so crucifix adverse.
well, of course he's crucifix averse. Jesus is the only one who could defeat evil and the devil.
I get it.
Yeah. So like that's the whole vampires and the crucifix and all of that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
like all the movies, the power of
yeah,
Christ compels you.
demons are even afraid of Jesus because Jesus is the one who defeated death. Jesus went to hell, came back and like emerged.
I didn't
Like,
know that.
yeah, Jesus like went down to hell and
Into
then he came
Hades,
back.
right, or something?
Well, I mean, hell, like
Yeah.
Hades, I mean, another word that's like the Greek word for it, but
Okay.
like, yeah. So that's like part of the death, and he descended into hell, and like 3 days later, he rose again, and then he came back, and then he was hanging out 40 days on Earth after with like Pentecost and stuff. So anyway, so Stingy Jack, so Stingy Jack, he tricked the devil. And he got him up in the train so the devil couldn't come back down because of the crucifixes. And so Stingy Jack made Satan promise, well, you can never take me down to hell. Like, you got to promise you'll never take me down there. So the Satan had to be like, okay, sure. Eventually, drinking took his toll and Jack died. His sinful lifestyle and deceitfulness prevented him from entering heaven. St. Peter was like, no, you haven't been good. You're not allowed in heaven. And so then he's like, well, where do I go? So then Jack went down to like the gates of hell and he's like, hey, Satan, like, you got to let me in here. I got nowhere else to go. But Satan, fulfilling his obligation to Jack, he could not
To
take his soul.
never let you in. Yeah.
So Satan gave Jack an ember to light his way, and Jack is doomed to roam the world between the planes of good and evil with only
Ah,
an ember inside a hollowed turnip to light his way. So the
wow.
Jack o' lantern character could be derived from
Driven right
this.
from that. Absolutely it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in America, turnips gave way to plentiful pumpkins, birthing the jack-o'-lantern by the 19th century. So, jack-o'-lantern being derived from Stingy Jack from this 19th century poem. By the mid 1800s, play parties emerged in urban and rural areas, blending Irish pranks, Scottish fortune telling, and games like apple dunking. Ghost stories such as Washington Irving's 1820s The Legend of Sleepy Hollow added American flavor. Early 20th century vandalism rooted in Irish mischief night prompted community response. By the 1920s and 30s, organized events channeled energy into parades and costume contests. Trick or treating crystallized in this era, evolving from souling and guising into children in costumes demanding candy to forestall tricks, with the phrase first documented in Alberta, Canada in 1927 and widespread in U.S. newspapers by 1939, trick or treat. Post World War II, suburbanization and the baby boom amplified Halloween as a family centric commercial spectacle. Candy companies marketed treats like candy corn, invented in the 1880s and booming in the 1950s, and caramel apples, circa 1908, while Hollywood films like John Carpenter's 1978 Halloween infused horror elements. By the 2010s, spending topped $7 billion annually on costumes, now including adults and pets,
Mm.
decorations, and events, transforming it into a secular global holiday with faint ancestral whispers in its themes of harvest spirits and communal revelry.
My, how it has changed.
Yeah.
It morphed a little, huh, into a commercial spectacle. That was a interesting choice of words there.
Well, but it even makes sense when you think of like we've been in the cross of planning since like the 1600s, and part of the cross of planning is the will is lit up and it's will to the tribe. So will is also resources. So we've also like the mass creation and spread of abundance and resources. Like
Hence
they just
giving candy at the door. Yep. I loved Halloween growing up. I
oh,
absolutely
of
adored
course.
it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a super fun one.
No doubt. I'm just glad that 44 was there because 44 gives it far more the meaning of where it really started than its more, commercialized meaning now.
So you can see the origins of this where through October we go through these splenic fears, be afraid of this, be afraid of this, be afraid of this. It's going to get dark and cold. Can you survive the winter? Can you survive the night? So you have this like energetic thing, and then you have this religious Christian origin thing of honoring the saints, then honoring all the dead and departed. And you have that spreading in ways that mixes into like Dia de los Muertos, right? Which that goes
Mhm.
back to like Aztec and like Toltec traditions and stuff of was it the woman of death and honoring the dead in that time. So then that like they merged in with Christian All Saints Day, All Souls Day. So you have that imagery. So it's like you have this sense of like life, death, historical memory, fears, honoring the dead. You have Jesus, renewal through death into new life. So you have all of these things. And then this aspect of like trickery, and it's dark and you can be a little
Tricky.
spooky.
Yeah. It's
And
in the right
yeah,
channels. It's in the right channel to have trickery. It
yeah,
really
because well,
is.
even that, because 44 goes with the 26, and the
26.
26 has that tricky aspect, the tricky salesman. I didn't even put that together. That's so
Yeah, of course
cool.
they would go together. Yeah, they'd be in that, yeah, yeah.
And it even makes sense because then the 24 also links up with the 61, which is like, ooh, scary knowing, dark stuff, occult knowing, dark knowledge.
Yeah, I can totally see
Whoa.
that.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Again, I love that it's all tempered by its real work that 44 is doing with 24, which is becoming alert to the things that we need to have answers, questions answered. It's alert to that, and it's getting that mental hit that feels there's an answer, and it's alert to who it's going to come and meet and have that extra with it. I
Um,
like what it is back before, and I do see how we could have changed it into what it is now, you know.
oh, yeah. Of course, there
But
has to be a trajectory of evolution.
but it
Yeah.
is weird that it is the one time, and anyone can attest to this. I can absolutely attest to this. It's the one time half of us will meet half of the people in the neighborhood that we ever do meet.
Coming to meet. And even like 61 is like, what is that? What is that in the darkness?
What is that?
Like,
Oh, yeah, totally. 61 pinging the 24. What's that? What's that? Yeah, I used to love the darkness. I was like, yes.
because there's mystery, it's the unknown. And when you're young, you don't know what could be out there, which is fun and scary. Whereas like the older you get, you're like, I know there's too much nonsense out there. I don't want to deal with it. But when you're young, it's like it's so exciting and curious.
That for me, it always was. And then you're right, it did get too commercial and just too boring after a little
Mm.
while. But that's whatever. Been there, done that. We're grown adults. What are you gonna do? If I had a pack of kids, it would be fun again. They're all grown up.
Halloween, super fun. It actually makes energetic sense. And it was really cool because to actually like tie in all the different history of it was really, really neat.
I think it was really good, Moni. It fit right into place. 44 sends us all around knocking on doors while having a little bit of this, folklore to go along with it. And our folklore currently derived mainly from Jack here
That
today.
was It was such a ridiculous story. I was like, "What is this?" I literally found it today before, like, finishing up my prep for it, and I was like, "Oh my God, I have to tell this whole story of, like, Stingy Jack."
Stingy Jack. Couldn't get into heaven. What a bummer.
Yeah,
You got to
so
mess up pretty bad to, you really do.
in Danny's cosmology of heaven and hell and who gets let
Yep,
in.
yep. You heard that here first. Yep, yep. I'll go carve
Well,
it into a tablet for you.
if you want to book a reading with Danny or myself to talk about your chart or any of these silly, fun holiday things and all the things we noticed, check out the QR code right above me. We also have our link down in the description box below. And be sure to use code AWAKEN for 10% off of your reading with us so we can deep dive and help you understand yourself. And yeah, we'd love to have you.
Very exciting. I can't wait to meet each and every new person and help guide them through their design so they see the aspects of it. It's just such an honor to be able to be on this side of things, Moni. So thank you too while we're at it. Everyone say thank you to Moni. If it weren't for her, none of this would happen.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. It's been super, super fun. So thank you to everyone who is watching, liking, subscribing, hanging out with us, asking questions, doing the thing we love having you. It's been super fun growing. So thanks for being here, and we will catch you next time for another holiday.
Till the next time, everyone. Much love.